ground-dwelling spiders in 2 pine-hog forest remnants from Mexico.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Campuzano. I'm from Mexico, and I'm going to talk about the spatial and seasonal patterns of the Arctic clade, ground-dwelling spiders in 2 pine-oak forest remnants from Mexico. So, temperate ecosystems are broadly distributed. They are covering around 16% of the world's cover, and they are mainly dominated by Pinaceae and Fagaceae families, which are commonly called pine and oaks. And similarly, Mexican pine and oak forests are broadly distributed. We have roughly 21% of the national territory covered by this kind of forest. And they also have an important number of phanerogamous species. Nearby, around 24% of the phanerogamous species from the country are habitating this forest. And they also are considered as diversification center of Pinaceae and Fagaceae species. So these kind of forests are very important in Mexico. Nevertheless, they are being overexploited, mainly by the industry and illegally. In addition, there is an important lacking of scientific knowledge about the community, which enhance their vulnerability. Regarding the ecology of spiders in Mexico and natural environments, is the knowledge is mainly biased toward some guilds or groups related with the forest structure. So we can easily find information about weaver spiders, understory spiders. And by the contrary, only few studies regarding other groups like ground-dwelling spiders, epiphytes spiders, or non-weaving spiders, for example. And the knowledge of those last groups is practically null. Regarding the RTA spiders, this is one of the largest groups of the Araneae order. They contain about 51% from the total species richness in the order, and they are primarily defined by the presence of such apophysis on the male pulp and one-to-many trichobotry on the tarsi and metatarsi. Even though the high diversity of this clade, the knowledge of the Arctic clade in Mexico is mainly taxonomic. So this is the knowledge is mainly focused on description of species regarding specific families, and the nearest ecological work that we could find was carried out by Corcuera and collaborators in 2010. So they compared weaving spiders of native woodlands, pine and oak, versus eucalyptus plantations here in Mexico. So we provide, this study provide new knowledge about the ecology of the patterns, spatial and seasonal patterns of the RTA spiders in temperate forests from Mexico, particularly pine oak forest. And we answer 5 main questions, which are shown in the slide. The study side, the study was carried out in 2 pine oak forest remnants nearby Coatepec Arenas town in Estado de Mexico, in Mexico. The climate here was subhumid temperate with a marked rainy season from May to October. And we installed at each site, we had 2 sites. We installed 4 groups of 4 pitfall traps, and that were checked out monthly from July of 2010 to June 2011. to have a total of 96 samples. Well, what we study, we analyze the species composition. To this, we computed hierarchical clustering using also similarity analysis to find significant differences between groups or among groups. And we also looking for differences in abundance using linear mix and model variance analysis. In this case, we propose two main factors, season and sites as fixed effects and the traps groups nested in the sites as random effects. We also analyze the community structure using redundancy analysis and permutational variance analysis for the RDA under a reduced model. To this, we employ the two factors, sites and seasons as main factors, and their interactions. We also check the alpha diversity. To this, we compute the three first health numbers following the chaos methodology and constructing sample size-based rarefaction extrapolation curves, making the comparisons at twice the smallest reference size. We also try to find possible indicator species employing in the Einbald index from Dufresne and Langer. And we also carried out a test for significance difference using permutation test. Finally, in this case, we also use the species score ordination of the RDA to visualize the association between the species and the environmental conditions that we were measured, in this case, the centroids. Regarding the temperature and precipitation effects, we use linear regression models to observe how is related regarding the abundance and species richness. And finally, we made a bibliographic analysis looking for it in international and national journals. And we also made a data filtering using different criteria to have a more objective comparison. This data filtering was focused on the methodology and taking account the sample coverage. So we found 732 spiders belonging to 12 families, 18 genera, and 34 species, morphospecies. Regarding the species composition, we found differences between seasons, but not between sites. Nevertheless, the relationship between ecological distance and the environmental factor was weak. So we couldn't find solid groups in the cluster dendrogram. And the abundance analysis yielded spatial and seasonal differences, particularly between size, spatial differences, and among groups of traps. The site A and rainy season were the most abundant, respectively, and we didn't find an interaction effect. Regarding the community structure, we found differences between sites and between seasons. And the alpha diversity analysis showed only differences for the main effect site in the hill number 1. It is shown in blue. And for the hill number 2, when we compared site A for the rainy season versus site B for the dry season. So a similar condition were studied, in this case, pine forest in both sites. We expected to have no special difference on the community. This contrasts with the results, especially when abundances data were included in the analysis. Nevertheless, some other studies record an spatial heterogeneity at local, regional, and continental scales, and even have been recorded scale dependence effects in the same community. So our results showed particular differences in the abundance among groups of traps inside each site. So
10 minutes.
we think there are possible influence of microhabitat characteristics that we didn't measure. So the seasonal response of the ground dwelling spiders also is controversial and have shown different patterns on other mountain forests of the world. And the temperature and precipitation regional change, we expected that we could give us a direct effect. Nevertheless, we didn't find a significant effect regarding richness and abundance. As we mentioned before, community response have been shown in a direct or indirect effect regarding the community, so it's a little bit unexplored. Nevertheless, our results showed a seasonal response of the community, and we had also a bad fit in the models. So we think other environmental variables may be controlling the seasonal change in the community. We also found 6 species as indicators, and which were also recorded for other temperate forests, and that had been disturbed in Mexico. Finally, the community, when we compare the community with other results for other habitats in Mexico, we found a high rate of undescribed species and a higher richness in northern habitat, which made us think that they are possible species repositories. So in summary, we found the dirty ground dwelling spiders were susceptible to the spatial and seasonal variations. And even though the temperature and precipitation had no effect over the abundance and species richness, we could find 6 species were strongly associated with some environmental measured, and they could be possible indicators. And the bibliographic analysis showed there are a large number of undescribed species for this clade in Mexico, and the highest richness together with lowest number of undescribed species in northern habitat, most of them desert. So they could be possible species repositories. Thanks.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. We don't have time for questions, sorry.